made tonight possible: the K-State Young Democrats, the K-State Political Science Department, and the Institute for Civic Discourse and Democracy. Secondly, I want to thank Samantha for moderating tonight. She's a political science major and vice president of the K-State Democrats. Third, just to make sure things go smoothly, I know it's not as big of a crowd, I don't anticipate having any problems. We do have a few rules for audience members and the candidate to follow. Representative Carlin, please respect time limits. They'll be just a little bit more relaxed tonight, but a yellow card will be raised when you have about 30 seconds left to respond, and a red card when it's time to wrap up. Stay focused on the issues, offer and examine support for claims, listen to everyone thoughtfully and respectfully, and seek understanding and common ground. And then audience members, we don't need to worry about that one, but when it comes time to ask questions to the candidate, just make sure they're relatively short and concise. That way everyone has time to ask a question if they wish. So thank you all again for coming, and Sam, I'm going to hand control over to you.
Okay, good evening. Hi, I'm Samantha Sushanik, and tonight's format is as follows. We have Representative Carlin here, who will have up to 3 minutes to give an opening statement, and then afterwards I will ask a series of questions on 8 different topics. Representative Carlin will have 3 minutes to answer each question, and then after that we're going to go to audience members who can come up to the mics here and ask their own questions. If you intend to ask a question, please make sure it is short and concise and can be pertinent to state level politics. We want to ensure that everybody has a chance to pose their own questions and that they are relevant to the responsibilities of a state government. And with that, let's begin with opening statements from Representative Carlin. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Samantha, and thank you everyone for being here. It's a beautiful day. I can see why maybe the room isn't packed, but I hope that you'll all enjoy being here, and please feel comfortable in asking me anything. I may not know the answer, but you can have fun asking. My introduction, I think I'll just start with why I'm in Manhattan. I came here as a 8-year-old as I went to 4-H camp at Rock Springs, and I fell in love with the area at that time, and I thought, that's where I'm going to be someday. And that I lived in Chanute, southeast Kansas, on a farm. And so I had 4-H for 10 years and a lot of ag influence. And then I decided when I came up here as a sophomore in high school for a leadership camp and got to be on the campus, I just thought it was fabulous. So it's home, and it's been home for a long time in my heart. So I moved here in 1972 after I'd been in Oklahoma for a few years and had a couple of kids and got a divorce and moved here as a single mom. And I said, I know my kids can get an education here. And that was the most important thing that I was thinking about their future, because I thought, I don't know, as a single mom, will I be able to do that for them? So it provided me a really wonderful place to be with my kids. And so now I've been in the House of Records. Well, I got involved in a local issue in 1988. The county was going to build a jail across the street from my kids' school in a park. And I said, I didn't think so. I was PTO president, and I was kind of drafted into following that issue. And there were about 6 of us who went to county commission meetings twice a week and sat there and watched to see what they were doing. So most of the time we don't pay much attention to the county commission, maybe not even to the city commission, unless we have a problem, and then we do. So after 12 years, we built our law enforcement center out on Seth Child Road and Fort Valley Boulevard. And that was after several campaigns that we went through as a group in those 12 years to elect people from in the county that would be more interested in preserving our kids' school, which was Manhattan Catholic Schools. And a lot of people didn't think we needed Catholic education because we had a great public school system here. I'm married a Catholic, and I decided that was good for my kids to go to the school because I couldn't really teach them their new religion. So I ran for county commission. I lost by 100 votes to Karen McCullough, who has been in public service here ever since. She's been in and out of city and county government all these 30 years. And so I am now state representative, and I started that in 2003 under Kathleen Sebelius. So I serve on several committees, and I just want to mention those before I stop. In the morning, I'll go in at 9 o'clock and go to Appropriations Committee, and that lasts all morning, 2 to 3 hours. We go back to plan the budget. We go back to several times, especially in the year when other people are not meeting. I love serving on that. We do all the budgets. I'm also on the budget committee, the Ag and Natural Resources Budget Committee, and that committee has 14 agency budgets that we watch and oversee and make sure are adequately funded, properly funded. Then I also serve on the Ag and Natural Resources Committee, and I'm the ranking member on those two committees. So I can drop it there. Well, I also serve on a special Corrections and Juvenile Justice Oversight Committee, which really fit into my city background. So I was happy to get on that committee. Thank you.
Thank you for your opening statement. And with that, our first topic tonight is crime and public safety. So here's your question. With 60% of current and prospective college students considering campus safety when selecting a university to attend, 65% of students also worry about the threat of gun violence on their campuses. How will you ensure that Manhattan is a safe community for students and families?
60%. I didn't know that statistic, but I can see, I wondered when, this is just me wondering, but I wondered when we allowed open carry on college campuses, how that would affect our enrollment. And I don't know that it did. I've not seen anything that says it did, but in my heart, I feel like some people chose other places to go to school. And I know our enrollment was down after COVID. It was, I don't know when it started to go down, but it had gotten pretty high for a while. We also have Fort Riley nearby, and we've had brigades deployed to Poland and over in Europe. And since the Ukraine war, it's been pretty constant. So there are fewer kids around to go to school, for one thing. But and I would consider it, if I were a student at this time, I would consider safety of campus. When I was on the city commission, we did a lot to improve the safety on campus. The big wide sidewalks that you see that ambulances and police cars can drive through, that was built in. The city invested in that by, when we annexed the university, we created a fund called the City University Projects Fund. And that fund was the sales tax that we got from the sales on campus. That was projected to be $120,000 a year. In the first 6 months, it was $420,000. So when we started to divide that up, I don't know what it is today. That was 1994. I don't know what it is today, but when we started to divide that up, we formed a committee of city and university people to decide how to distribute that money. And one of the first things we followed one that was security lights, the blue phones, and sidewalks that vehicles could drive on. So that's one of the things we've done to improve safety. We also had escort services. I don't know if those things still exist, but you're leaving a dorm and want to cross campus, you can call for an escort service. Good, thank you. So, second part of the question, gun safety. Every year, Barbara Ballard, who is probably in her 34th or 5th year in the Kansas House, goes to the microphone with an amendment to take campuses out of the gun laws. And every year, it gets shot down. And it never can be, we never get a bill through on it because the people in power won't let that bill come through. But she can always find a way to amend it onto something. And so every year we try. She does a great job of presenting it, so I let her present and I back her up. But we would like to see that changed. And recently we had the person who was wandering around with his AR-15 rifle and bullets and pistols on his body, and that was quite a frightening thing. I don't know where that person is right now, but I have been working with the university and the police department to try to find some way that we can interfere in that safely and still respect his constitutional rights. He has not committed a crime at this point, so there's not much we can do. I was writing an executive order to try to convince the governor to do something if we had an emergency, and I was reminded that during COVID, those powers were taken away from her by the LLC, or Finance Council group of leaders, where we have 2 Democrats on those committees and the rest are Republicans, and so we never get much through. So losing that power could be a real problem for us. But that's what that's what I've been working on just recently. And I thank you for that question.
Thank you so much. Your next question is about affordability. With 35% of Manhattan households are cost burdened, although the cost of living in Manhattan is below the national average, how will you ensure that the city remains an affordable community for everybody?
I read recently a report that says Riley County has been the poorest county in the state for many years. I think 45 years or something. I mean, it's a horrible long time. And the report said that it is not because of students living here. It's just the way this community functions, and I don't have the answer to why. Repeat the question again, please.
So since 35% of Manhattan households are currently cost burdened, how will you ensure that the city remains affordable for everyone?
Well, I think part of that is what we elect as city commissioners, and that's our job. The city commission sets the budget around here, and the city depends on tax revenue. A lot of housing here is owned by a very powerful lobby, the Landlords Association. And when you can get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 students in a home, you can make a lot of money. I know when my kids were in college, one landlord was making $30,000 a year profit on his home, and it was a dump. It wasn't here, however, he did go away to school. But I think that one of the things, and I think, where did I get the idea you were going to ask about rental inspections, but I don't know if that's where I read that or just thought maybe that's what you were thinking. The state is building homes, and I think that should help on the cost of living here. We have the money in place now, and the projects and developments are in place to build 4,286 homes. And we have been across the state, not here, but the money was partly from the Affordable Care Act and partly from the state. And we used to put $2 million a year into housing for the state of Kansas, for the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation, and they use that money to either help build infrastructure or help with loans or various other ways they could help subsidize housing. But $2 million didn't go very far for a state, and we didn't do anything until 2022, I think, was when we first increased that. Our income level is low, but we have a pretty high income level on the other end. When you put the whole population in, the income is low. It's like $18,000 a year. And when you put the high end, you've got several with millions. So what can the state do? I know we're also expanding housing for disabled people. We've got $8 million to expand affordable housing for disabled. And we have an organization called Be Able here that is trying to build or clean up some properties so that people with really are down and out can have some place to be. My husband was on the board of the emergency shelter here for 10 years and helped build that shelter. And it has been full of 18 to 35-year-old white men for years. So it's an interesting population. It's interesting that that population is in need. So I could go on. Maybe it's time.
We can move on to the next question.
You can all ask me later. Yes.
So our third topic is rental protections. Over half of all residential units in District 66 are currently occupied by renters, but there are very few tenant protections at the state and local levels. Do you believe tenant protection should be strengthened? If so, what specific protections would you support?
I've been thinking about that. I thought that's where you're going to go with it. When I was on the city commission, we had a real hard push from the community to get rental inspections. It never came about the way it was presented. Now, if you are a renter, you can ask for an inspection at the city level. Go to this, you call the city and ask for an inspection of your property and tell them what you're concerned about. And I don't know how many are doing that, but the state doesn't take that up. That's a matter of local control, I think. That's the way I feel that should be answered because of my experience with working with it. If you have some suggestions, I'd be glad to consider them.
The next question is about job growth. Manhattan is known for its vibrant small businesses while also housing major institutions. However, the ongoing brain drain problem threatens these economic pillars. How will you attract jobs that can retain recent graduates in Manhattan?
The Commerce Department has created around 68,000 jobs since 2019 or so. In the last couple of years, it's been real positive for the state. What we've done in Manhattan with the NBAF, the National Bioagro Defense Facility, is hugely going to impact the growth of this community, and we're talking about job growth. So they're going to hire some people. I think there's been a couple hundred hired right now, and it's not open yet. But it's going to bring other science-related companies to the area, and I know that we're already doing that as well. I can't list them off to you, but that was the goal. And when I served on the city commission, we did a plan for our growth. We had a board called the Manhattan Economic Development Opportunity Board, and we had a sales tax for economic development. And that we had this board of people. I was able to serve on that and to help young businesses get started and to loan some money from the Economic Development Fund. And that was a local initiative. The state of Kansas is also supporting K-State 105, which I see K-State 105 as actually a copy of what we did here in Manhattan, because we learned how to get people together and figure out what kind of jobs we wanted for Manhattan. Excuse me. And we decided what kind of jobs we wanted. We're kind of landlocked here. So we didn't want to use what land we have with huge big manufacturing and such, but we wanted some. I signed the deed on the Manhattan Industrial Park by the airport and negotiated the buying of that land for that purpose. And we do have some larger businesses there and manufacturing. But we decided that we wanted scientific industry that would give our students something to study and a career path. And I think that was wonderfully led by President Leopold as well. He was a very strong leader in the community, worked with our community on things, and it benefited the university. So I don't know anything else I should say to that. MBAF is going to be huge. It's already affected our technical college as well and the academic programming they're doing, and also a K-State science curriculum. So thank you.
Our fifth topic is water conservation. The Ogallala Aquifer is depleting unsustainably, affecting both rural and urban areas. If the current rate of use continues, it could take 6,000 years to restore the aquifer. About 30% of the aquifers in Kansas have already reached day zero, meaning that the wells have run dry. How will you address both agricultural and urban water conservation?
Well, I just went out to tour the K-State research farms with Professor Rice last week, a couple days ago, I don't know, not very long ago. And we had a lot of good conversation about soil conservation and about how we can utilize our water in our crops better. And I've been working with that issue as a member of the Ag Committee, so it wasn't new to me, but I learned an awful lot from him. But responsible use of our soil and our water is really key. We did pass a bill this year that was really progress because, I don't know, are you, any of you from the farm? Irrigating? Yeah. My family farm was irrigated in Salina, that was my husband's farm, but they irrigated, and my daughter was married to someone in Garden City that irrigated 39 circles of land. So I understand from that point of view, the senior water right issue, which is first and whatever. You can't, if you've got it, you get to keep it forever, the water rights. So we have had years of conversations with no luck. But this year we did pass a bill that would address that issue by requiring the local government, GW, groundwater management districts to meet with the community and come up with a plan by 2026 to reduce water usage from the Ogallala. And they are working, and it's working well. And also the conservation tools that we're using have already reduced by 33% the usage up in northwest Kansas in the Sheridan County area. People just voluntarily learning how to better use the soil. And so I think we're doing a good job of that. Was there another part of this question? Okay, well, that's kind of where I've got more notes on this, and I have been checking into it. We also, the water, is this a water issue question?
Water conservation, yeah.
We put $35 million into water in 2022. Prior to that, our water budget that we were supposed to fulfill each year was $8 million a year. And after the 2003 recession, that got trimmed down to nothing for many years, maybe $2 million, but just like not enough to sustain any projects. So this year, or in 2022, we added 35 million. And in 2025, we did another 35 million, and then we're doing 16 million more for 25. So the money is there now to create responsible policy and infrastructure to preserve our water. And it will encourage people like around here, around Tuttle Creek, because infill of the lakes is an issue. And Tuttle Creek, if you go out there and you go up Randolph and see the lake when there's water in it, and then when it's down, and you can see the soil just gushing, moving into the water. It was supposed to be a 50-year lake, and it has survived the 50 years. That was 1961 or 2 that we built it, so it survived that. But now they're projecting that by 2070 it would be 90% full if we don't do something. So over the last 5 years or so, we have been investing in sedimentation problems for our lake, Tuttle. And we're going to have water injection system brought in. It's a pilot project by the federal government. We've invested about $800,000, well, maybe a couple $1,000,000 by now in that, and it will stir the water up and it will push the soil downstream. So I'm interested in that getting started.
The next question is about higher education. This year, Princeton Review ranked Kansas State University #1 in down relations. How would you plan to build off of this accomplishment in collaboration with the university?
I think we've been #1 for a long time, at least in my eyes, because we have actually had such a good relationship with our city. I don't know, I've lost my notes on that. Hang on a minute. How do I get childcare here? There it is.
Childcare is next. Don't miss that.
I got it mixed up. So I tried to be smooth about this because nothing went right today when I lost everything on my computer. Just wiped it out. But refresh me.
Town-gown relations, how would you improve upon those?
Well, I think a presence is the main thing. You know, a former governor, whose name I won't speak, required the universities to inform him if a legislator was on the campus. I think there might be someone in the room that's more about this than I do from the other end, but that cut down on my invitations to campus. And it probably affected a lot of invitations to come inside. I'm never invited to speak to a room except in one architecture class. And you know, it's like we need the open door to K-State and to the city. And hope, you know, things change. I don't know how to say we could improve on it, but I think right now it's a little bit down. I'd like to see it be a little stronger, but you know, Coach Tang goes everywhere and introduces himself to people and is very friendly, and we need to go back and introduce ourselves to him. You know, so it's just a social thing that we all need to be involved in, and we need to support the things that go on in Aggieville and the students, and they need to support, you know, our community events as well. But the leadership of the student government and the university is very important in that.
Our next topic is childcare. The cost of childcare in Kansas is one of the highest in the country and is unaffordable for many working and middle-class families. How will you address this issue and make Manhattan a premier place to start and raise a family?
Just got an invitation today in the mail to the groundbreaking of the child care and lab that the state has invested $5.9 million in. And for the last 3 years, I think the governor's been, well, at least a year ago, the governor had a task force on child care. There was a bill introduced that had some problems that a lot of young legislators with families wrote the bill, and they wanted things that the governor could not support. I did not support the bill, and I fully understand the problem. But some of the things that were in the bill were not something I could support, such as having an 18-year-old person be director of a child care facility, and such as reducing the square footage required for children and reducing the number of adults that had to be present when there are toddlers and babies in the room. We just couldn't go there. So we want to make it affordable. The governor has the children's cabinet, and I have a list here if anybody wants to know about the other grants that were given this year. But a lot of them were big to the cities. The Kansas City and Wichita area always gets more, they have more representatives and they have more need. But we did go all around the state enhancing child care opportunities. And we have slots for, I think it was almost 5,700 children now are being provided with the money that we've invested in those areas. The one here is going to be a learning center for people who want to get in the business of childcare. And it will be, it'll have room for 8 classrooms of children and 8 different businesses. I believe it's still 8. The cost was about 24 million. The state couldn't go that far because the opportunity that we had some federal money and some state money going into it, but everybody was ready to go with their needs. And happily, we got the accelerator granted some money, and I believe over time, there will be more money to help sustain that as we request the money for that. I worked really hard with the Children's Cabinet to persuade them that this was a well-supported idea. The land has been given by Via Christi Hospital, and it'll be next door to the hospital, so it's going to be centrally located for people to find their children when they need to and to take them and deliver them. I just think we're doing everything for childcare. We are providing more funds for teacher pay. We're trying to help students get loans to go to school and become trained in childcare. I raised 4 kids, bless my heart. I stayed home with the last 2. The first 2, when I was a single mom, it was anyone that take them. Just drop them off here, see ya, I'll pick you up tonight. And I really, really, really didn't have an opportunity to do anything better for my kids. There was nothing better available. So I understand.
Our final topic is infrastructure. In 2022, the Mercury reported that 32% of Manhattan's roads are in poor or worse condition. What infrastructure projects will you prioritize to ensure safety and accessibility?
Well, I work on appropriations. I just do money. So I vote for money for things, and definitely during the Brownback administration, we cut $500 million every year from our budget for 7 years. And the highway fund was robbed by $1 million a day for those years. So we had no highway money. Now the city always gets money from the state to keep streets up, and the county gets money from the state. Well, it was dry, there was nothing. So we have fully funded the highway fund again. I have a new plan. They went all around the state asking communities to come together and say what they wanted, what they knew about their bridges and their airports and the infrastructure. A very big thing, as you realize, with the federal government's infrastructure bill, the buy bill that everybody claims credit for now. But 7 people from the opposite party did come together and vote for that, and it will be very beneficial to us. The cones all over town are driving me crazy, and I wish I knew somebody that wanted stoplights, because I have now 6 new stoplights between here and my house, which is up the hill from the sorority houses. I mean, it's so close to campus, but if I don't go through campus, I've got 6 lights. It drove me crazy tonight. So I don't mean to cut this off. Infrastructure, I consider water infrastructure. We've done so much with water, and we found out that we had 30 small towns that were about to have their water fail and needed water support. So we've gone about the water business in trying to help them to rebuild their water infrastructure and their sewer infrastructure. They have to apply for grants, but we're going to continue that as communities need it. We have done so much to try to catch up, and the governor has paid off the debts. And that's something I do want to stress as we wind this up. I don't know if there's any more questions, but we paid off like every debt that the state had. Our credit rating was low. I think we had some Fs. We were so low that, we were really in bad shape when she came into office. But in 2017, some of us gals got together and started having private meetings after the legislature had adjourned, and we were working on a new tax plan, and we made sure that it was adequate. And that's one of the reasons I have to claim some credit that we got that through, because we had 31 women and 28 were voting with us. And that was a fun project I'd love to talk more about. But we did save us from disaster by getting the money in, and now we had extra money. We were almost embarrassed to have extra money, but we did get everything paid off. So the future looks bright for Kansas. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Representative Carlin, for your 8 responses tonight. Now it's time for the audience members to pose their questions to the candidate. Please come to the microphone with a short, concise question about an issue relevant to state-level politics. There are microphones in the aisle where you can stand and ask. If you are unable to make it to one of the microphones, please raise your hand and a volunteer will bring you a handheld one. We will start with our first question whenever someone is willing to go to the mic. The floor is yours.
Thanks. Thank you, Representative Carlin, for coming up here today. I have a question about a bill that you recently voted for, I believe of June of this year, House Bill 2001, it's the Star Bonds bill. The KC Tenants Union successfully opposed a tax that would move the Royal Stadium, or at least keep the Royal Stadium in Jackson County, but it would also cost them gentrification and new infrastructure that they opposed. Kansas then voted, including yourself, House Bill 2001, which provides $1.5 billion in incentives for them to move over to the Kansas side of the border, which would require millions in new construction, untold green space destruction, and not to mention depriving Jackson County of the revenue that has subsidized much of their city programs for the last few decades. I'm curious why you and maybe other Democrats would vote for a bill that would rip the stadium away or potentially threaten long-term health and the ecology of the local Kansas City area.
Jackson County's in Missouri.
I'm aware. The Star Bonds bill incentivizes.
I understand. I just wanted to clarify for those who might,
Yes.
because we do have a Jackson County, I think. But anyway, Jackson County is in Missouri. This was brought to us kind of in the middle of the night, and I opposed it the first time. Okay. But when it came back again with a better plan, it was slipped into a bill that we had 80% of money from the sports gambling was going to go to build a stadium for a sports team. Who knows who? We didn't know much. So I voted against that. But I did vote for this because I worked with Star Bonds back in 05 and 06 after the Legends was put in place. And I know it was hurtful for the people who lost their land in that. But they were compensated. They didn't, it wasn't taking, but they sold their land and maybe there was pain. Like there was pain when we built Tuttle Creek. I get that. But the Star Bonds paid off in 5 years. It was a 30-year deal. They paid off in 5 years. If the Royals and or the Chiefs come to Kansas City, Kansas, I'm quite certain that we will get our money back. Now, the gentrification issues, I have concerns about that. I voted against our own Discovery Center because of gentrification. So I'm not liking that part, but I hope that one of the things I did was write a bill on eminent domain when it's used for someone's personal gain. And those people should be much better compensated now because of that bill. It has had an effect, and I'm very proud of that bill. Did I answer your question? If not, say so.
I think you answered part of it in the
Probably.
sense that you say that it'll pay for itself and then some of these folks will be compensated. I guess I'm more curious now about the environmental impacts and also then depriving Jackson County residents. So that was, I mentioned that the new construction, the same way the Legends Mall would have required hundreds of millions of dollars in new concrete and construction that does harm not only our local Kansas environment, but also pollutes the atmosphere and harms our residents in ways that you can't easily calculate with a dollar amount through eminent domain. I'm curious, like, how do you weigh those concerns? Because you just said you don't necessarily like gentrification, but then
Well, I
there's also
don't
these
like-
environmental impacts as well. That
And honestly, I don't believe we talked about an environmental impact, and I wish you had been there, because we should have talked about that. However, it is, the Jackson County people part, they voted it down.
correct. I was just saying that the stadium, if it were to move, that would mean all the revenue would then leave Jackson County as opposed to remaining there and funding their.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm saying that if the Royals were no longer going to be hosted in Jackson County or the Chiefs, and they were incentivized to come over to Kansas, now Jackson County residents would not have that tourism revenue, correct?
That's exactly right.
So-
And it was their choice.
Well, I guess that was the opposite of the case. They were saying that like there was no choice. It was either gentrification or the stadium leaves. I don't see how that's like, how would that be a choice as me as a resident looking at the stadium and them threatening to leave if I don't give over my money to them? I guess that doesn't make much sense to me.
I would really love to have a personal conversation with you about this, because you're getting far, far from where we thought. We were not talking about it that way. We were talking about the financial gain and the attraction to Kansas and what it would do for us. And I agree that we should have been talking about those issues. And I would like to know if anybody talked about them. Where I sat, we did not talk about that. But
Thank you
I
very much
wasn't
for your
in that
question.
committee, and thank you.
Next, we're gonna go over to the young man in the purple button-up.
Thank you for giving me the platform. So as you kind of referred to early on in tonight's discussion, you mentioned how there was a U.S. Census Bureau report that shows about 300 counties in the country have persistent poverty levels, which means the poverty rate was at or above 20% for the last 30 years. Riley County is the only county in the state of Kansas to fall into that group. You kind of mentioned that you don't think it's because of college students being here. So,
The report said that.
well, yeah, the report. So why do you think poverty is so persistently high in this county, and what role does the state play in reducing that?
The state's role is to create opportunity, if we can, for this area. And we have been working on it for the 25 years I've been involved. Manhattan has drawn so much from the state of Kansas over these years, and I feel like sometimes I should kind of bow down and not gloat about that, because I'm very proud of what we can do here, what we've done here, and how the state has supported us.
I mean, you could talk about what the state could do more broadly to reduce poverty in Kansas. It's at about 12%.
We are really working on that. That is, everything we do, well, not true. We have, one of the things we can do is elect more Democrats, okay? Because we have had poverty defense has been cut. People can't even eat right now sometimes, and the students have their own cat cupboard, which is wonderful, but that's kind of new. It hasn't been there. What I think causes it here is that students are sometimes taken advantage of, and they're not paid well. I worked at McCall Pattern Company when I first, second or third year I was here. And when they came in 1969, the reason they were locating here was because we had a lot of students that would work overnight and go to school. My sister was one of them. She stood and folded patterns all night and then went to school. And she had to take a semester over because she didn't do too well. But businesses can use people, and we may be a little bit high in that area. I do not know, but I know that there are waitressing and waitering. I don't know if you're getting your $2.60 an hour check or not. They tell me that sometimes they say, well, the tips cover it. That's not the way it's supposed to work. So I think we could use, you guys, if you're being used, you need to speak up. And I can help if I can.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Hi, my question is, what measures will you advocate for to address the student debt crisis and make higher education more affordable?
I know the housing is one, and we're working on that. We don't have anything to do with loans, that is federal, but I would support, the federal government doing that. Loan forgiveness and my granddaughter went to school the year that loans were 8.5%. And then she went on to law school, and I don't know how she's doing with that. She's handling it because she's a dang good lawyer. But, those kind of things are just with you forever. Students should not take out more debt than they can manage, and I'm afraid they don't have enough education and training in what they're getting into. I think they find out that they can get so many $1,000s a semester and they go do it. They don't know the cost of doing that. And I don't know even if they're told if they would understand what that means. When I look back at my house payment, how much money I've paid in interest in the last 22 years, oh my goodness, a lot more than the house was worth. So that's part of it. Am I getting to what you'd like to hear?
Yeah, and then specifically, what would you do to promote the tuition in higher education or lowering tuition or making affordable tuition?
Yeah. We've worked pretty hard on that, but the Board of Regents does set the tuition, and we then, as appropriations committees, approve their budget or not. Last year, the last 2 years, our comprehensive grants have been, since COVID, we have been sharing that 50-50 with private schools. And that was quite a concern this year, but students need to be able to succeed, and that helps Kansas, and then we generally decided to go ahead and do that. It used to be 40-60 split. But the comprehensive grants is one way, and I'm really happy that I was so happy when after COVID, when everybody said, I'm going to do this no more. Because that's what changes our wages. When the restaurants couldn't open and they were crying to me that they couldn't get help, and I sat and talked to one who didn't know any names of any of his servers. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, it's a larger spot, but he didn't know their names. And he didn't know why they didn't come back. And I said, call them. Tell them you want them back. I think I digress. But I just know that when everybody decided they were going to work from home, they were going to find ways to make money without being employed, it was shocking to me. And there was no movement. There were no Twitters. There was no emails. Hey, let's all walk out. It just happened, and I think it was magic. And it has changed things. It is one reason that we have higher wages and probably inflation. But it was worth the effort to show the business world that they need us. They need us.
We will continue taking audience questions until 7 p.m. if anybody has anything else they'd like to ask our candidate.
We've been paying attention to.
Thank you for coming out today. You talked a lot about renters and renter protections, as you mentioned before, even building new state housing, which I think is fantastic. But would you be opposed to removing the state's law on renters' caps on landlords? For example, my rent has, at the same apartment, went up monthly $100 every single month. At the same apartment, just a different lease. There's many states that do have renter caps of 10% annually that landlords are not allowed to exceed raising. Is that something you would be opposed to? It would also in turn talk about the poverty within our county as renters. I believe as students, we're all renters.
Thank you for that question. I been trying to figure out this last few days, what can we do? And I haven't delved that far, but it's been in my head, well, what can we do as a state? Because we have had issues, landlord issues and housing issues come before the body, and some changes were made, but I don't know that they affect affordability so much. But I believe you said, would I remove the caps on landlords? Did you mean install caps on landlords?
Well, yes, but in the state, there's not allowed to be, each county or each city is not allowed to impose a renter's cap because of the
Okay.
state law.
Is that a constitution or a state law?
I
I will
not
find
impose
out.
that,
I will
yeah.
find out. I think that's very interesting. I know I have a family member that's living in an apartment and rent went from $7 to $7.90 this year or something for the same thing, and his dishwasher was loaded and they didn't fix it. And yeah, I know what some of it is like, and I think those are things that we should look at, and we can compare the other states and how it's worked. And you can talk to me later and we'll write down what you think ought to be in there. I would work on that.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to ask a question on artificial intelligence. I know that the state had talked about this last year in terms of like campaign ads and like robocalls allowing AI, or whether or not the state wanted to ban, using AI in campaigning. But just, I guess, a general question: what is your view on what the state could do to make sure that there is being ethical uses of AI as it grows even more and more? Just today, I discovered there's a new AI that Google created where you can literally make a podcast from uploading a document, and it sounds like real people. So, just kind of what your opinion is when it comes to the ethical use of AI and what the state can do to intervene.
I would guess somebody is working on that. There's got to be a committee looking at that. I'm amazed. I was remodeling my kitchen and I have an Apple Watch, and I was looking for a sink, and lo and behold, Wayfair had my sink. And it kept telling me every day that it had my sink, and I finally bought it. And I finally figured out it was because when I was shopping, the things I was shopping for, people were talking to me about was coming through on this thing, and I didn't even know it. A lot is going on in the advertising world right now to convince people that AI is wonderful, and so we do have to figure a way to regulate those things. And we do have some committees that work on technical issues. I'm not on one of them. But I agree. And what would you suggest?
Well, that's a crazy one. I do think though that like when it comes to campaigning and stuff, we should figure out a way to ban AI. I know that like this last year, I was in a political science class and we were talking about how one of Trump's first campaign ads was actually an AI talking about, what the world would look like if his opponent had won. And so it's very interesting. And kind of what I was talking about too, like just the idea of being able to generate people's voices. You can really easily create, a video of you saying something that maybe you've never even said before, but it looks like you and it sounds like you.
And that's, we tell all the senior citizens when they ask you if you want something, say something other than yes. But if they get 3 words, they can take your voice and they can make it work. So I mean, how do we communicate without our voice? And so there is an infringement on our freedom there that we do have to protect. I like the question. You knew I didn't have an answer to that.
Well, thank you.
But I do think campaigns are very risky, and with the foreign interference that we are now seeing again in our presidential races and probably our congressional races, because those are so important right now. And all the things I get on my phone to donate money, and nobody knows who I am, and I'm just getting all this. So I don't answer anything anymore, and so my communication is cut. I don't answer the phone till I know it's somebody I know. I will return calls, but I don't take calls. I mean, it's changed our life, and I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have time for one more question to wrap things up tonight.
This is gonna be
Welcome.
good. You're gonna like this. I went to a higher ed conference over the weekend. And a higher ed conference. Yeah. I still do things. And we had a speaker from Washington DC. He works for the State Higher Education Association, so like the Board of Regents, those kinds of folks are his members. And his contention is that the federal government is abdicating their responsibility for policy in higher education, pushing it down to the states. Do you see that, and do you think that's a good or a bad thing?
Well, with most political issues, it's some people win and some people lose, and it's 50-50 on things. And that's one of the first lessons I learned, and I got on the city commission. I don't know that they're pushing things down on us. I'm not at that level to know that, but I know that we need the support of the federal government. And when they're trying to help students, when our president is trying to help students with their loans and with their interest rates and all, that's stopped by members of Congress. So I don't know if it's an intentional effort. It's hard to know. I'm glad you brought that up, Sue. Again, you guys are out functioning me.
Well, for the students that formerly in my class and currently in my class, we say that the government closest to the people is best, right? And so I kind of think that maybe state policy for higher ed should be made at the state.
You see, I don't understand what they tell us that is interfering with us. I look at it as money and
Money, regulations, how much we pay people, what we can do in terms of civil rights,
but we're having that
discrimination.
at the state level as well.
I know.
And so I don't like it at the state level because
So the answer is bad thing.
for me, I don't see the good thing in it, and I'm trying to because I can see there must be a reason for someone to think it should be that way. But I sure don't like our Congress or our legislature telling professors how to run their class, telling you that a legislator can't come to your buildings without being reported. I find interference like that to be really ugly, because what we want to teach people is how to think and how to develop and to use their imaginations and their goals and ideas, and we don't want to stymie them with those rules.
Bad thing.
Bad thing. I guess I talked myself out of that one.
Thank you, audience members, for your questions. Our last segment this evening will be a closing statement. Representative Carlin, you have 3 minutes to give your closing statement. Your time is now.
I didn't get that far on the list, but thank you for the opportunity. I enjoy being here with you, and I love watching your faces, and I think you're listening. I didn't see anybody sleeping. I told Kelm if we went an hour and a half, I knew I'd have people bored to death. But I do appreciate your attention and your being here. I like my job. I've been in there 22 years, starting 2 more. So I have to like it. It excites me every day when I go to work and I walk in that beautiful building and I say, I am so blessed to be a part of what's going on here. Even if all I can do is vote no and oppose things, because somebody has to do that, or we could run amok. We could run amok. So I don't know what else to say, but thank you for sending me back. I don't have an opponent this year, so that's why I'm here by myself. I think this is 5 or 6 times that I've been unopposed, and I kind of enjoy having some time off. This year I had a hip replacement in May, and I'm fine, but I had a chance to rebuild, and that was very important to me and my family. And so this has given me a chance to catch up. And I really would appreciate your helping out with anything on any campaigns. You will enjoy the work if you get into the excitement that's going on right now in campaigns. You will enjoy getting to know what we do. It's just, it's better when you have an opponent because you work harder and you express yourself more and people get to know you better. When I have a campaign opponent, my phone rings off the wall when I've been door to door more and when I've got more yard signs, and when people see my name, I'm contacted so much that even in the middle of a very difficult campaign, I have constituents that need me and they let me know it, and I miss that when it's a little bit quiet, when I'm not raising heck out there. So hopefully this session will help me to get some people to pay attention to me. And I enjoyed being here. Thank you very much. And Samantha, Michaela, all of you, have a good evening.
Well, thank you, Representative Carlin, for coming here tonight, participating in our town hall. Thank you, Sam, for moderating, and thank you to all of our organizations that again made tonight possible. And thank you all for coming tonight and asking your questions and being engaged. K-State students is very important since we do make up the majority of this town, but we don't vote at high rates, so make sure you go out and vote. Yep, I will actually get into that. So if you want to vote in Riley County, you have to be registered to vote in Riley County. And to do that, you can visit ksvotes.org to update your registration. You have until Tuesday, October 15th to do that. And then early in-person voting starts on Wednesday, October 16th and runs until Monday, November 4th. You can vote early in person downtown at a building next to the courthouse, or right here in the K-State Student Union on the 2nd floor in one of the ballrooms. We're going to have a polling location here. Open to everyone who's registered to vote in Riley County, but obviously very convenient for K-State students who are registered here. And then if you want to vote from the comfort of your home, you can request a mail-in ballot up until Tuesday, October 29th. Also visit ksvotes.org to do that. If you're curious about what is on your ballot this year or who's on your ballot, you can visit the Kansas Secretary of State's website called My Voter View. Just type in your first, last name, and birthday, and it will look you up. And then Election Day is on Tuesday, November 5th. Polls are open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can also visit the Voter View website to figure out where it is you go vote on Election Day. So thank you all again for coming, and all the information I just told you is on pamphlets in the back corner for you to grab on your way out.
Take some
And
cards.
have a good evening.
Take some cookies.